coming to you live from the San Francisco Bay Area. It's time for Zig in the Zone with Ralph Zig Tyko.
Hey, I am back, Zig in the Zone, Alameda, California, and I'm blessed. Two of my buddies get to talk. One is Pauly B, the producer. How are you?
Hanging in there, Ziggy. What's happening with you, buddy?
Well, it's an overcast day so far in Alameda. The sun is just coming out, and it's summertime, so how bad can it be?
Right, it is beautiful. It's beautiful here in the city. It's a little windy, a little cold, but, you know, that's San Francisco for you. So,
hey, before we bring on our guest, tell me about your event last Sunday.
It was good. It was good. It turned out really well. We had a small group of people. It's weird because we were in the middle of Pride, which you would think we're surrounded by 1 million people, but we didn't have our doors open to the general public. So it was pretty much invite through social medias. And the people that made it really had to make a trek, unless they were already here for Pride. Unless they were already...
It's tough coming into the city sometimes, as you well know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And,
I mean, so these guys took a long time to get here. They got here. Everybody that was here was very interested, put me through my paces, setting up and breaking down scenes and recording stuff. But, it turned out really well. I wished we had more people. But either people were on vacation or they're doing Pride or whatever they were doing. But yeah, we had a great time. It was fun here. So, and we plan on doing it monthly. So check out everything we do here at Edge Studios at Edge Studios Online on all social media platforms. And if you want to reach out to us, it's edgestudiosonline@gmail.com. So thanks for asking.
Beautiful. I can attest that you do some wonderful work with a word that I haven't used very often about people lately. You've got empathy, and makes for a wonderful person to deal with. And we've been doing this on and off for a long time. We go back to the FCC studios together. What, 12 years ago? Am I correct?
So I would think so. It's 2025 now. I know I started my stint there in 2008, the end of 2008-ish. And so I would say from 9 on, so that's 16 years that I was there when I started. So we probably been at least a year in. So we've known each other. We've known each other 15 years.
And it's always been nice to work with you, but this making my podcast into a audio podcast into a video podcast has been so challenging and so stimulating at the same time. It's been a great way to spend my retirement, and I'm grateful for you, Pauly.
Well, I'm grateful for you also, Ziggy. I appreciate you being here and going along on the ride with me. So let's not waste any more time, though. Let's jump right in.
No.
Tell us about your guest today, or our guest.
My guest is returning guest from Alameda. He's a baseball maven. And if that looks good to you, you'll enjoy today's show. Steve Taddei, how are you? Welcome back.
Oh, I'm doing great, and I'm delighted to be here, Ralph.
Good. I thought of you when this topic went through my head, because, as you know, I'm a golden age of baseball maven, and memories of those days consume my life. So I thought of something that is incredible. and we talked about this a little off air, the great players when Jackie integrated, and Mr. Ricky integrated, the great players came in droves, and there was Jackie and Larry Doby and Campy and Banks and Henry Aaron, and it was wonderful. But there were very few and far between because prejudice still existed. And there were very few and far between utility guys that played in the majors, got to play in the majors. And I thought of one of my boyhood, not a hero, but he's someone that interested me quite a bit. His name was George Crowe, and he started out with the Milwaukee, it might have even been Boston Braves, and then went to Cincinnati, if I recall correctly. And he was so, anytime you saw anything in the sporting news about the Black community, they all looked at George Crowe, who was not a young person when he got the chance to be in the majors, but was not only a good hitter, he was a pinch hitter deluxe, but a maven and a father figure to the young blacks who came into being. And there were many of, not many, but others that helped lead the way to make the Black culture feel good about themselves. Remember, in 1964, Kurt Flood, or Bill White, who was the future National League president, was not able to train, not able to eat at the same hotels or even stay at the same hotels in spring training. This is in the early 60s. My God. Now, let me tell you how that affected baseball. When St. Petersburg was looking for the Giants, and the Giants, I see your cap, Steve, the Giants were about ready to move. Bill White, because of the conditions in St. Petersburg in the 60s, and he was then now the National League commissioner, National League president of the National League, put the ixnay on that deal. They did not move to St. Petersburg because Bill White said, "Over my dead body."
I did not.
And I don't know if you know that Bill White has a Giant history. He was a New York Giant back in the day in 1957. And when the New York Giants broke my heart and became the San Francisco Giants, they Bill White was traded because Orlando Cepeda was coming up, and later McCovey. They had a whole bunch of first basemen. So they traded Bill White to the St. Louis Cardinals for um, Sad Sam Jones, if I recall, and who was a hell of a pitcher, but he didn't last as long as Bill White lasted with the Cardinals. So it turned out to give Bill White the chance to be a great first baseman in the National League. He went on to be a terrific commentator along with Phil Rizzuto. They got along perfectly, and then became the National League president, and he did everything for baseball but walk on water. And I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame. I lost track of that, but he should be. If nothing else, the reasons I just mentioned. And Steve, your thoughts?
Well, the integration was interesting. And the Bill White story resonates because, the Giants were loaded with first basemen. They were loaded with outfielders. And that caused quite a few trades. They ended up trading Cepeda because he didn't feel like he could play third base, and they had McCovey, and they tried to put McCovey in left field. They tried to put Cepeda in left field, and that was just there was just so much going on. But you're talking about the utility infielders, and that's interesting because, and this is just my opinion on reading things and looking at history. It got to a point in the late 40s, particularly after African Americans served so heroically in World War II, and the talent level in the Negro League was so great that you could not stop integration. Yeah, it was just the idea of the color barrier was just ridiculous. And then you look at what happened, and the National League integrated faster than the American League. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the overwhelming majority of the most valuable players and the rookies of the year from 1947 to about 1958, 59 were African American. Don Newcomb won the first Cy Young Award, I think in 1956. And then you go a little farther, the American League was extremely slow to integrate. And you and I grew up in the 1960s watching All-Star games. Who won all the All-Star games at that time? I mean, right. Yeah. So integration had to happen because the talent level.
Hey, let's give Bill Veeck a little credit.
Well, he too with Larry Doby, right?
Not just with Larry Doby, but he wanted integration in the late 30s, if I'm not mistaken. And he could not see the idea that there should not be equality, but he was kind of a humanist. And it took society a long time to come to it, and we must recognize what Jackie did, and the stars of the 50s and what have you didn't have it much easier than Jackie, because Jackie got to play in Montreal before reaching Brooklyn. And Brooklyn was the place that he was meant to break in.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But just as there was Philadelphia and St. Louis to make his life semi-miserable, there was in the minor leagues where the blacks came up in the 50s, it was basically the old South and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
A picture of Beta Pinson in the minors with the water fountain and a sign on them on there, no colors, no colors. He's drinking from that water fountain. Just imagine what guys like Pinson and Robinson and Kurt Flood and Lou Brock and Ernie Banks had to put up with, and how that shaped their personalities. If you saw bitterness, and remember, they came up before the unions that they had to fight for, and their competition included people like Enos Slaughter and Joe Garagiola, who would spike Jackie on purpose. And that gives you an idea of what they went through.
Right.
So the utility players that we started to talk about, it wasn't easy not to be a star on the bench. There were very few Latins and blacks were picked as utility infielder, as utility players. So George Crowe was one of the most successful ones I can think about. And again, Steve, I'm hogging it. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. And you talked about the minor leagues. There's a great book that I read called Carrying Jackie's Torch. And it's by a former Newsday writer named Steve Jacobson. But he talks about the players that came after Jackie, exactly what you said, where they were real careful with Jackie, sending him to Montreal. Brooklyn was a perfect place. But he interviewed a bunch of ball players who went through the Jim Crow South. One of them was Willie McCovey, but he talks about the quotas. And there was a real progressive manager on a Georgia minor league team that Willie McCovey played for. He got his car vandalized one time because in a particular game, out of the 9 ball players on the field, he had too many African Americans. So somebody vandalized his car, and there was that. There were like these quotas. And then, people talk about quotas in 2025. There's always been quotas. It's just who was being quoted, who was a victim of the quota, or who benefited from the quota.
Right. In not only baseball, but in everything. There's
right.
Yeah, you always have the people that get jobs because of their parents or what have you. Well, have we come along? And let me bring Pauly into this a little bit. Have we progressed much? Remember, we're talking about the 40s and 50s. Pauly, as a society?
Well, sure, we've progressed. I would hope so. It's evolution, right? It's only natural, and I guess I should get the camera on me. I was doing.
Have we progressed quickly enough, given that people did not vote for the president last time?
Okay, so in this country,
she was a she, and she was a black person.
So if we're looking at it right on face value, No. I guess America wasn't ready not only for just a woman president, but a black woman president. Am I being honest? I'm trying to be honest. But no, I mean, if
I
we
don't know how they did quite fine with Obama.
right,
And they
so
were-
we need to spoon feed the American public. They can only take so much. They're like a baby in a high chair. If you give them a big, huge spoonful, even if you do the little "here comes the airplane" shit into their mouth, they'll spit out half of it all over their chin and all over their parent, right? So you spoon
Right.
feed us. We're an easy folk. We're a simple folk here in America. We have to take our culture with a spoonful of sugar, or in this case, fentanyl. But what I'm saying is slow stuff. So we had the black man in office, but a black woman. Okay, one more. So this is what happens. It seems like a trend in this country. And stop me because you guys have been around the block as many times as I have, and maybe even once or twice more. So with that said, don't we always seem to do the same thing in this country? What I mean by it is, depending on where we are in the pendulum swing, if we're all the way to the right or if we're all the way to the left. So what it ends up doing is that right now we're all the way to the right. We're almost to start giving Nazi salutes and everything else in the streets. We're also to start calling our president Mein Führer. So we're getting that close. So if the pendulum is so far to the right, next time it's going to swing all the way to the left. We need to be somewhere in the middle, folks. We need to be somewhere in the middle that actually represents our country. When we elect an official to the highest office in our country, at least half of us are always pissed off and not motivated. And depending on who it is and what their faults are on how things slip or don't go through or don't progress or don't evolve, like we were just talking about evolution. This presidency, I'd like to think of it as the de-evolution of men. If we were actually to look at that chart of Cro-Magnon men, they would actually start, if we kept on this course, we would start dragging our knuckles when we text on our phones.
Right.
Right? So.
Very good analogy, Paulie.
So I think that's where we're at. It's a scary flipping thing. So I'm glad that, there's people up on a rooftop with sniper's rifles. I'm here in a studio with a microphone. This is how I enact change within me.
Get the word out there. We are getting the word out there that this kind of behavior isn't right. As a society, I'm embarrassed for you.
I want to play the clip. I want to play the clip from the movie Network. We're not going to take this anymore or whatever. And right? And so that's where we are in this country. That's it. You better stand up because they're coming for your rights next. I was telling somebody the other day, but don't you feel you know what? I really had felt white privilege for a long time. If I got pulled over, I was just scared because I had pot in my pocket. It's not because I was a black man in America and I was worried about being shot. But now I'm afraid to walk down the street. I'm afraid I might be deported because of ICE agents. And I'm a middle-aged white guy. They ain't going to mistake me as an illegal alien. But at this point, Gestapo is picking people up and throwing them in jail without any due process.
They're going to mistake you as a protester and not mistake you. So
mistake me?
So
I have a target painted on my back. On my forehead, I'm going to get it tattooed. I mean, what else do I need to do? I don't care. If you're going to, like I said, if you're going to take me out of my country, it's going to be like a kid that did not get that toy in that department store. I'm going to kick and scream and lay on the floor, and my mom's going to have to drag me out. That's what they're going to have to do.
And, I've heard that your mom is the kind of person that would help drag you out.
Yes, she would. She'd go, boy, get out there. No, I was always the kid that got lost in the department store. I was always the kid. You'd always hear, "Hi, it seems like a child has lost its parent. You know, if you're the parent of, you know, please come to the front desk. We have your child for you."
Yeah.
And so,
What does Rodney Dangerfield say about that? He says, I went to the beach and I couldn't find my parents, and I looked for a cop, and the cop says, he said, am I going to find my parents? And the cop says, I don't know, kid. There's so many places they could hide.
yeah.
So I apologize to Rodney for fucking up that joke.
My favorite Rodney at the beach joke is I went to the beach and they tried to push me back into the water like he was a beached whale.
Yeah.
So let's get back.
Steve,
So, okay. So then the same question stands to Steve. Steve, have we progressed? Have we gotten to that point in our country that we can accept even just a black woman president? Have we gone through enough? I mean, I'll tell you, this news cycle is so quick, I can't even catch my breath.
Well, what struck me last year in the election was, first of all, like for a minute, right after Biden left the race, or when they talked about him leaving the race, there was conversation right away, but it ended quickly. Is Kamala the right candidate?
Right.
Right off the bat, the Democrats were nervous. And then they found out there was some popularity, and they ran with it, and they didn't have a real primary. But there's a lot of conversation out there that just the fact that Obama was black and he served 2 terms, that just fueled a lot of the desire to get somebody like Trump in there. There were some people that just couldn't handle that. And then third, just the overall language used last year. As soon as it became obvious that Kamala was going to be nominated, they called her the DEI hire. And then Trump was using the term low IQ. And it was just totally out of line. And both of those had racial connotations as much as when they were going after Obama's birth certificate. It was the same. It was the same type of thing. And then they talk about DEI and hiring unqualified people. And now Trump's in office and he's hiring people off of Fox News for important positions. And I have my feelings about Fox News, but I don't want presidents hiring people off Fox News. I don't want them hiring people off of cable, off of MSNBC, CNN, or ESPN.
Hey, you know,
people that are qualified.
I've heard rumors that ICE agents are being hired by people that were in the January 6th riot and were pardoned by the Führer, and they are hired now to be ICE agents. And
oh, Jesus, really?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
I'm sure they're not advertising that, but it took a court order to keep them unmasked. And we are so...
Hold on. Did you actually hear this somewhere, or is this your speculation?
No, I heard this somewhere. I haven't.
You haven't.
I would say you do it very well. Google it as we speak. ICE agents hired by
Or insurrectionists hired as ICE agents is what you're telling me. Okay, I'll look it up and see how. We'll ask Chat GPT because I rely on Chat. Not.
No, I'm saying that I'm the guy to rely on. I'll tell you, because a political science major, I'm not. So take it with a grain of salt. Check it out, and would it surprise you?
So I start to type it in. Oh, okay. Oh man, I can't even. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. I apparently I can't even type. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Hey, Steve, I'm going to ask you if you see a ray of sunshine ahead for democracy.
The ray of sunshine is that there's a lot of people with buyer's remorse right now, that especially with this this bill that's going through the Senate. I think it passed today, but there's a lot of people that supported Trump that need some of the benefits that are being cut. And then there's a lot of people that supported Trump that were not the least bit interested in sending bombs to Iraq or Iran. So there's a lot of people that voted for him in November that if the election was tomorrow, probably wouldn't vote for him. The thing that concerns me is if you're from south of the border, or if your family from south of the border and you're Hispanic, are you going to leave the house on election day 2026 and vote? Even if you're here, even if you're the third generation here, you were born here, your parents were born here, maybe your grandparents are integrated or immigrants. What is going to happen on election day 2026? Are there going to be ICE agents running around? Are people going to be afraid to go out and vote? So there's going to be an election. There'll be primaries in 2026, and there'll be a general election in November. But I'm wondering what turnout's going to be. Even they're talking about disenfranchising people, but even if they don't, will people just voluntarily just stay home because they don't think it's safe to go out?
And now you have a new wrinkle on it. Elon Musk.
Oh, and Trump. And let me kind of.
There's a lot of money and power behind both of these people.
Right. Yeah. Well, he must try to do that. He tried to influence that Supreme Court election in Wisconsin, and he came out on the law side. So that was interesting too. But it's just there's a lot of things that are up in the air right now that concern.
Yeah, who he supports in the primaries in the different elections is going to make a difference.
Oh yeah.
Whether we get the House and Senate back. I wonder if there's a way to break him up legally, break up that whole, and all these trillion and zillionaires. Ronald Reagan is responsible for changing the tax code.
Because of trickle-down economics?
Yeah. Well, no, because of the way he taxed millionaires.
Right. It was supposed to be trickle-down economics, and it didn't
We used
work.
to have 20%, and everybody would pay a 20%. When I first started out of the insurance, out of the service in the insurance business, that was the idea. And that made perfect sense because, Bezos doesn't need $5 million weddings and yachts and billions of dollars, while there are human beings in this country that don't have enough to eat and or books to read. Let's take a break and talk about that.
Well, I want to go backwards a little bit because you wanted me to fact check, and so I want to catch you up on that before I lose my train of thought. So the reason that they were saying that there was insurrectionists or January 5th protesters or what do we want to call them? Insurrectionists have been ICE agents is that there's been numerous reports because people have been grabbed off the streets, like I was just saying earlier, with no due process, people not identifying themselves. Like you said, they have masks on. So there's been people that have been taking videos with their phones of different arrests happening, like, oh, they took my husband, they took my child, they took my coworker. People are grabbing their phones and taking videos. And some of the people in these videos that are supposed to be ICE agents are not wearing the right gear to, like, they're wearing their guns wrong, or they're wearing their vest the wrong way, or they have the wrong tack vest for the wrong situation. And so a whole bunch of different people that are consultants for like the LAPD and different people that have been talking to news outlets like CNN and Fox News have been noticing these things that are not consistent with actual ICE agents. So then at one point, Kristi Noem, which is the head of, which is what now? What is she? She's the one that shot her dog that was also a Fox News rep, but she's the head of defense? No, the head of...
Homeland Security.
I'm sorry?
Homeland Security.
Thank you, Homeland Security. I knew it was something she wasn't qualified for. She actually told Congress that they were using January 6 people as ICE personnel, I guess. And somebody else noticed that, like, one of the guys had a swastika on his forearm. And they're like, that's not cool. And somebody else had, like, a MAGA something on. It wasn't a MAGA hat, but it was something else to go, oh, you're an ICE agent and you're wearing something that's political? That ain't cool. And so that's happening. That's why we are hearing stuff like that. Is it true? We don't know. But it looks like she agreed to it, or she did admit. Kristi Noem told Congress that they were using January 6th.
Steve, you're starting to see that we just kibitz good sense. And
and Steve, turn your camera for me, and then by the way, Zig, you're now showing me your feet, and that's for the later show. That's for the later show.
Something's wrong.
We may have that's really wrong.
Yeah, now that's Steve's gone totally, and there's your feet again. That's great, cool. Let me see if I can take both of you off until we figure this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to promote your show for a minute, and I'm going to call you right back. All right, so guys, this is what we do. Here is the stuff for Ziggy. Please reach out. Follow him on all social media. Download and subscribe where podcasts can be seen and heard. And then, that's where you would see it. And we're hoping there's somebody's there. There's one person not on a camera yet. But maybe I'll hang up and try it again. But anyway, that's where you get Zig. All those, follow him. Follow, like, subscribe, download each and every podcast. And Steve will... Oh, I know one other thing that he wanted me to show you, but I'm going to do this anyway. I'm still going to try to get him up here because I'd rather get them back in the show. And with that said, hopefully we got these guys back. I have them on audio at least. You guys are there? I think I have you guys back, at least audio-wise. All right.
Hey.
Hey, there's Zig. I can hear Zig.
Well, put a picture up of me.
Yeah, right now I'm
because
promoting. Right now I'm promoting your stuff. Also, we'll do the Zig Says while we have you. Zig Says, please give to your Head Start program. Give books.
Right.
If you got books, get books, round them up, bring them to your local Head Start program in your town. The government's cutting all these programming, so you can reach out to their Gov website listed there. But your best bet is to literally bring some books that from your home, which you're just or something anyway, and bring it to your local Head Start program. So Steve is back. Zig is back audio wise. I will make that happen. But good to have you back, Steve. I'll put you up. I think I'll put you up. There you go. Now we got you. So yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff going on. And even this, it's just like, we all have to stand up in some way, and do our part. And I mean, not everybody's got a podcast. Not everybody's writing books or articles and has the ear of the public, but even in your own little ways, I mean, just not going silently into the night. I think that's kind of our duty as an American, is to speak up for what we believe in. If you believe in this shit that's going on, sure, go ahead. But man, I think a lot of people have buyer's remorse right now. And I don't mean just the Tesla buyers either. I've seen so many Teslas with like stickers that say, "Hey, I bought this before I knew Elon was a jerk," and stuff like that. And the other day, I was literally at a supermarket, and in the first couple parking spots right in front of the door, it's always handicap, right? They had one of those cyber trucks with a fucking handicap placard hanging from the window. And I thought to myself, when has being an asshole in this country become a disability? But, again, that's me, and that's just how I think. But, yeah, no, I think we have to do our things in each and every way. And it might be just in our own little world, our own little fishbowl, not necessarily what we're doing here. But where are we going next, Ziggy? Did he leave us? He left us. I know I got Steve.
Well, it's just you and me, Paul.
Yeah, it's just me and you. So where do we go next, Steve? What do you think?
Well, it just, Ralph had mentioned the January 6th insurrections. I had heard there were Proud Boys and Oath Keepers that were working for ICE, and they talk about they're just hiring these guys and they're getting their uniforms on Amazon.
Well, and that would coincide with what I just read. I just read three really quick articles, and they were all snippets because I paraphrased, because like even the last one I went to was like Tucson paper.org or whatever. It's a Tucson paper. So I literally went to like the right, the left, the center, and some independent. And so I wanted to make sure I kind of got what the real gist was. But yeah, I mean, that would make sense. It looks like they're buying their stuff from Amazon. They're not even putting it on. If they're not even aware that if they have a swastika tattoo, maybe they should be covering that up, not just so that it doesn't identify them, but also it doesn't show you as being a racist, and you're taking people off the street. I mean, if you're gonna be impersonating someone, you should probably, it's like impersonating a police officer with a cap gun or a gun that has an orange tip on it. How far are you taking this, guys? But I'm not trying to get them to smarten up their game. I don't want them to get better at what they're doing. I don't want them to actually look the part.
They have a guidebook. It's called Mein Kampf.
Yeah, it's the playbook for the Proud Boys. Yes, we know. And try not to mention. Try
it
not to
sounds
mention.
like I'm kidding, but I mean it.
Oh, I know.
Um,
But every time you mention Hitler, my dog freaks out about his dog. So you got to watch out talking about, because we know what Hitler did to his dog. And I'm sorry, let me cover my dog's ears. But anyway,
no, I don't know what Hitler did to his
he
dog,
had to,
and
he
I
had
don't.
to, he had to
But
test
I
his
know
cyanide.
what he did. I know what he did to my grandmother.
Right, but what I'm
So-
saying is he was gonna, him and Ava Braun were gonna take cyanide, and they wanted to make sure it was gonna kill him, so they tested it on his dog first.
I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah, and I better look that up, because now I feel like I'm telling stories out of school. I watch too much of the. I watch too much TV. I watch too much of the Hitler channel. I mean, History Channel. Because every time I turn on the History Channel, it's Hitler.
How are we coming for time? Because we may have exceeded our limit. Pauly?
Yeah, well, no, we're going good. We're good. We got a couple more minutes. We're fine.
All right.
All right, but
Steve, tell me a story just off the top of your head that will cheer me up. How about that?
A story that'll cheer you up.
That'll cheer me up. Tell me a baseball experience, a fan experience. What's it been like being an avid sports fan for all these years?
Oh, I was spoiled. I grew up, I was born in 1957. I grew up in the 1960s, and my first baseball memory is seeing Willie Mays. And I don't remember, I didn't live when baseball was segregated. I don't know what it would have been like if the Giants were an all-white team in 1965, and you wouldn't have had Mays, you wouldn't have had McCovey, you wouldn't have had Cepeda, you wouldn't have had Marichal, and
Jim Ray Hart.
And Jim Ray Hart. And then, I mean, the list, Jose Pagan, Tito Fuentes, the Alou brothers. And it just, I was spoiled. That's what I grew up with. That's all I knew. And then when I was 10 years old, the A's came to town. And my roots are with the Giants because that was my first baseball memory. But the A's come to town. And now I'm in high school, and they're winning the World Series 3 years in a row. And the Coliseum is close enough to where I can almost walk. So I've got the A's winning the World Series. Before that, I've got growing up watching Mays, and McCovey played through the 70s.
Yeah.
And it's just the greatest way in the world to live. And then my son comes along when I'm 30 years old, and he's going to the Coliseum exactly like I did when he was in high school, and he's watching Hudson, Mulder, and Zito. And
my kid watched. Zito would sign for the fans before the game. He'd take an hour and get every player signed.
Mm-hmm.
Barry Zito, hats off to you, because you could tell a personality of someone, how they get along with kids.
Oh,
and do they care about kids? And the autograph isn't the important thing. It's the personal interaction that the kid will build memories on and carry his fandom on to his children.
Right. That was Willie Mays in a nutshell.
Yeah, absolutely.
He every time he moved in to a neighborhood, he'd have the kids over for ice cream. That was Willie Mays in a nutshell too.
Well, when I was growing up, he was one of my first memories in 51 when they called him up as a kid. He was playing stickball in the street with the kids at that time. And if you Google that, you'll see great pictures of him, because he lived right where the Polo Grounds were, a block or so away. And he had a wonderful spirit, which was broken when he lost Leo DeRocher as his manager. And he was spoiled rotten and kind of bitter when he was replaced by Bill Rigney, and also embittered by the fact that when the Giants moved out to San Francisco, he was turned down for a house in a nice neighborhood. He couldn't buy a house because of what they call redlining and the color of his skin. And this was in 1958. So not that long ago. And Pauly, I'll ask you the same question about that. Are we moving quick enough? And that's rhetorical.
Well, I'm glad that you pointed that out as you ask a rhetorical question. So I'm glad that I
Right.
don't have to answer that. Are we moving quick enough? You mean, did we just get ran over? No, it was too slow. We were way behind.
Yeah, with everything. And I've always said, if one isn't a progressive, they're a regressive. And if you out there can take anything away from this podcast, we move to make things different. The status quo isn't where we're at on any level.
No, I'm so progressive, they nicknamed me Flo. Like the girl progressive. Good, I'm glad you got that one. Good.
Yes.
I'm sorry. But yeah, you have to, because again, we're talking about this news cycle. This news cycle that I used to be able, as a writer and stand-up comedian, be able to ingest maybe 10 minutes of news in the beginning of my day, 10 minutes of news at the end of my day, especially if it was somewhere from like CNN or something, because they always repeat the news 24 hours a day. So if you listen to it 10 minutes in the beginning, 10 minutes at the end, you kind of get of what's happening in the day. No. Now, you have to have that news up, and you have to have every news source up on a wall with like 60 TVs, and you have to have every different aspect in view, and you have to be watching it the whole time. But I don't feel like having a heart attack, raising my blood pressure, not being able to leave my house because I'm so afraid. So what I do is I still only ingest my 10 minutes of news every day, but I ingest it in a different way. Now I just take a recap of news. I listen to the audio of it. I listen to it from two different sources at least, so I can hear the right and the left, and somewhere in the middle is me. And I stay informed. You said our guests have opinions without being opinionated. Fuck it. I'm being opinionated. I'm going to tell people how the fuck I feel.
No, you're not.
No, but I want to. I want to tell people how the fuck I feel, and you should be feeling this way too, and what's wrong with you. Normally I would say, hey, your feelings are your feelings, and I'm not going to step on them or devalue you, but if you fucking voted for this guy, or if you did some of this shit, or if you're standing behind some of this shit, or people have asked me, you're a Democrat then? No, because Democrats are sitting on their fucking hands doing nothing. I'm an American. I'm standing up for my rights, and if he comes coming at him with them, like I said, I'll be heading the local militia. Whatever it takes, I'm here. I'm staying with our countrymen. I'm not going to escape our country, and I'm going to bunker or hunker down here in San Francisco, surrounded by mics.
It won't come to that because the revolution will be an economic revolution, and people will see, they'll come together and not spend their money on things they don't need. And they will take all of the incentive out of government for taxing.
Right.
We have to have some sort of socialization. And I want to add that the reason I stopped being a Democrat was when we were disenfranchised, had a Bernie way back and got Hillary. And I know for a fact that Bernie would have beaten Trump at that point.
Yeah, if he would have actually got in there and started doing some difference. And yeah, and if we could, if we all had our crystal ball, and if we all had our crystal ball.
Right, that's true.
But I'm telling you, so he did something different with this term that he did last term. Last term, he promised all these things, and he never did it. He never delivered. Now he had his shit. He had his ducks in a row, and it was to take out our democracy one pillar at a time. And
right.
he fucking auto-penned so many. Well, he didn't auto-pen it, but he literally rubber stamped. It was a conveyor belt of executive orders. They were literally coming through. What's this one? Bam. What's this one? Bam. Gone. And so, yeah, no, I think even if we get the right person in office, it's going to take 3 different terms just to undo the bullshit he's done in the last 6 months. So good luck, America. Buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy flight. I'm telling you now.
And then we have the factor of his oncoming dementia. He's saying and doing things that are absolutely...
Yeah, and his has really turned a lot quicker. He's always been a rambler. He's always gone off, what do you want to call it, off script. But now his ramblings are like he's talking to the Boy Scouts and he's talking about, I don't know, women and stuff. He's doing some really weird stuff.
Right.
He always used to talk about, like, he would be somewhere and he would talk about inappropriate things. Like, he was always talking about the crowd size of his inauguration and all these things in the first presidency. But I think that was just to keep his ego inflated. Now the things that he's saying that are, coming out of his other end they're more than just falsehoods. He's just rambling. He's like an old man. He's like, Grandpa, come on, let's go. It's time to go.
And the scary thing is the world leaders have no respect for him whatsoever.
Oh, they haven't had that even in the first term. He lost that. He lost that 10 years ago, 12 years ago, or whatever. Since 16, 10 years ago. So I don't think he's ever had that. But all right. So I'm glad that we didn't talk politics today. I'm glad it was nothing about other than kibitzing about life and love and happiness. But no, it's been about this turmoil that we're in as a country. But
well, we have to identify it because it's cathartic to us, if for no other reason. Well, and we think we're helping.
Well, I think we are. I think we are. I think we're being free of heart, free of mind and open heart. And so, and you said it earlier, having empathy
that has
for
to be
appealing
to X number of people out there, and that's all you could ask for.
Right.
And we're trying to get the word out. Please subscribe to us on the Comfortably Zoned channel on YouTube, and have a great day. If we're headed out, Steve, why don't you take us there?
All right. Well, I'm glad June's over because the Giants were doing really well in April and May, and June's been a little bit rough. They lost last night in Arizona after getting swept by who they get swept by. They got swept by the White Sox. So now a new month is starting. Let's get the Giants back in the race. And then in 2 weeks, we've got the Major League All-Star game. I think it's in.
Well, we just got a potential superstar from Boston.
Yeah, Devers, and he's not hitting.
But Soto wasn't hitting for a while for the Mets, and now he is, and they're losing.
Yeah.
So go figure.
Go figure.
I'm just glad we have the greatest game in the world. It isn't perfect. It never was. And it's nice to relive our memories together. Steve, welcome to Comfortably Zoned. You are now a family member, and we enjoy having you.
And remember,
Fantastic.
Steve, our family, we put the fun in dysfunction.
That's my motto. I love it.
That's great. I love that. We could put that on a meme.
That would be very meme of you. That's a damn pun.
I will do what I can to get that word out there, and I will give you credit on the meme, Pauly. The #1 podcasting producer of all time. I don't know if you know that's come through. The election was held, but it was held like the Republicans vote, and that's in the middle of the night. No one knew about it, but now I'm getting the word out there. Pauly B, Paul Brumbaugh.
That's right.
Podcast
The Louis C.K. I like to think of myself as the Louis C.K. of politics. He has nothing to do with politics.
You could think of yourself with a lesser mind than him. He's really something else.
Steve, again, thank you for joining us. You're going to come back, right? You're part of our family now.
Oh, I'll come back anytime. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. And give us a shout out. Where can we catch anything you're doing, sir?
I've got a new podcast now on self-limiting beliefs. Now, here's the title.
Okay.
Stephen must learn to stay within the lines.
Oh.
And what that means is I was one of those kids that struggled in school. Mm-hmm. And I found this little piece of artwork I did in first grade that was kind of all over the place. And the note went home to my mom. Stephen must learn to stay within the lines. And I talked to people on my podcast about self-limiting beliefs, how they've affected their lives and how they've managed them and overcome them. And so go to Apple iTunes and just type in Stephen must learn to stay within the lines.
All right. There we go.
Yeah.
And then we'll have you back, and pleasure having you once again, sir. And Ziggy, get us out of here like only you can, sir.
I will. Just remember this, that be good to yourselves, and that will give you the permission to be good to other people. So that's my word of the day.
There you go. All right. You guys, please don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Monday 1 to 3 p.m. Junkyard Rat. Monday 4 to 6 p.m. Ghetto Poet. Tuesdays 11 to 1 p.m. Zig in the Zone. See you on our channel. Edge Studios Online. Keep standing up.